It's Wednesday, February 12th, 2025.
Get ready for CBS Mornings Plus.
And it is coming down here in D.C. At the other end of the National Mall, well, that should be the Capitol, but you can't see it today.
A dangerous winter storm dumps snow and ice across the eastern U.S., and another system is right on its heels.
We've all been there, scrolling into a spiral down the internet rabbit hole, but how far is too far? And when does being a fan turn into fanaticism?
Plus, we'll share the incredible story of one couple defying the odds, proving how love can overcome even the toughest challenges.
My biggest goal is just helping him get his voice back. He want to walk, but I want to hear him talk.
I'm rather confused.
And actor Lucy Boynton joins us in studio, star of the brand new series A Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis story based on a true story of a 1950s murder trial that shocked the UK.
Is it true that you have all been campaigning for me? I told you, no begging, no pleading.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to this weather moving on as well. I had to up before 5 a.m. with the salt, shaking it out on the sidewalk. Yeah.
I just stepped carefully through the snow and I was like, oh, my husband will take care of that a little later. And then I hopped over to work.
Look at you. Well,
I'm proud of you,
some
Tony.
of us are better spouses. I got Valentine's Day coming up. That's how I'm
we
saying I
divide
love
and
you.
conquer. That's his department. I have many other departments, right? All right, that's how we do it. But we begin, of course, with that crazy weather and those dangerous winter storms across the country, creating very tough conditions for drivers. This video from Baltimore last night, where there were lots of accidents. Take a look. Additional storms are also on the way, with more than 80 million people under winter storm threats this week. And it's not just snow and ice, but flash flooding also. Rob Marciano is in Washington with more. Rob, looking beautiful out there on the National Mall. Good morning.
Good morning, Adriana. Yeah, it is beautiful. And the snow, it's for the most part stopped. We've got a few flurries coming around here and there, but obviously about 6 inches of snow here. Some of the plows got out. The roads look much better than they did last night, but federal offices are delayed by 2 hours today. Schools are shut down. Another snow day for these kids. They had a snowstorm just like this about a month ago, but this one got across much of the mid-Atlantic, and it was white-knuckle driving last night. A lot of accidents because this is a snowfall that they don't see very often in the South.
Snow and ice slamming the mid-Atlantic right during Tuesday's rush hour commute. Over a foot of snow in spots, turning highways slick and making for a chaotic and dangerous drive home for millions. In hard-hit Virginia, state police say they responded to 700 crashes, dozens injured, parts of at least 4 major highways closed. And on the road still open, stuck semi-trucks and cars littered the shoulders.
Turn your headlights on. It helps you see and it helps other drivers see you as well.
In southeast Maryland, at least 3 people were injured in more than a dozen crashes in St. Mary's County. And at least 1 person died in central Kentucky after losing control of their car. Across the region, road crews tried to keep up, sending out dozens of plows as snow continued to fall, sometimes at more than 1 inch an hour. In the nation's capital, another slippery scene.
It is coming down here in D.C. There you see the Washington Monument. Roads are getting worse. Night is falling. At the other end of the National Mall, well, that should be the Capitol, but you can't see it today.
The near whiteout conditions didn't stop Mark Seymour from getting his daily exercise.
You got a smile on your face. Are you enjoying this run?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about D.C. during a snowstorm?
It's awesome.
Well, it is pretty, and the best way to get around last night was to do it by foot, although the roads are a little bit better today. There is pockets of freezing rain in parts of Virginia. We had snowfall amounts in some spots over a foot. It's beginning to warm up. That's good news. We should see some of this melt with the next ones to be rain here, but snow is expected across the north, from Kansas City to Chicago later on today, Detroit as well, stretching into the northeast, starting as snow and sleet, then changing over to rain. A wet morning along I-95 tomorrow. Not a snow day there, but inland areas will see significant pileups, 4 to 6 inches from Chicago through parts of northern Michigan. So that's a high-impact storm again. And another system coming into the west. An atmospheric river, and this one I think means business for central and southern California especially. Here it comes, a lot of moisture with this. So Northern California, then Santa Barbara, and then a moderate risk. This is level 4 out of 5 of seeing flash flooding and likely some mudslides in those burn areas across parts of Southern California. So we're very concerned about that, and that storm will progress to the east as well. Another coast-to-coast storm with more potential for snow, at least across the northern tier. What do you do here at DC where they have snowballs? They build snowmen. Hey, how's that snowman coming? Are you going 3 levels or 2 or just 2? 2? All right, I love it. Okay, Adriana and Tony, they could use your help here. We're trying to make the best of this situation.
I love a little wintry leisure there. Someone's got nowhere to be.
Yeah, someone has a snow day.
4 levels, who cares? Rob, thank you very much. Appreciate your work. All right, some news out of Washington. Good news. We're learning more about the release of an American teacher who had been detained in Russia. Mark Fogel is the name. He came home last night after 3.5 years in prison in Russia. U.S. said that Fogel was wrongfully detained during that entire time. He was arrested in 2021 after being found to be carrying a small amount of medical marijuana. The White House National Security Advisor Michael Waltz called Fogel's release a show of good faith by Russia and a sign, quote, "We are moving in the right direction to end the brutal and terrible war in Ukraine." Unclear how those are connected. President Trump welcomed Fogel to the White House. Snowy night in Washington, said the terms of the deal were very fair. This morning, meanwhile, the Kremlin says that an unidentified Russian citizen will be freed by the U.S. in exchange for Fogel. Trump also said another American will be released, but he didn't specify who. So there's a lot we don't yet know about this. But the scenes last night in Washington really were special. We got Fogel there in the snow, the American flag around his neck. His mom,
the Steelers hat.
The Steelers hat, the Iron City beer. He's a Pittsburgh guy. His mom, into her 90s, was trying to advocate on his behalf, get attention to his story, and was finally successful.
Yeah. President Trump mentioned his mom when he was addressing the press there, but he was facing 14 years in prison in Russia, so this is huge news. And we had Steve Witkoff, Trump's Middle East envoy, who was the one who picked Fogel up in Russia.
In his own plane, billionaire real estate developer.
Yes.
Would not get into the details, I guess, understandably. Wanted to focus on Fogel and Fogel's being reunited with his mom, his siblings, and kind of the celebratory moment. But we'd love to know more about how it all came together.
Yeah. All right. Well, President Trump is doubling down on his plans for the U.S. to take ownership of Gaza and relocate millions of Palestinians living there. Yesterday, the president hosted the King of Jordan at the White House and discussed his proposals.
We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it. We're going to get it going eventually where a lot of jobs are going to be created for the people in the Middle East. It's going to be for the people.
It was a bit of an awkward interview there, press briefing with the King of Jordan sitting right next to him, who disagrees with this, but was very diplomatic.
He's trying not to disagree and have a confrontation publicly, but also wasn't signing on to the ideas.
Well, standing by, we have Chris Livesay in Tel Aviv with more on the reaction to all this. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Adriana. With the Gaza ceasefire more brittle than ever, President Trump is indeed doubling down on his plans to resettle the Palestinians in Gaza and transform the land. But for now, among the rubble live 2 million people, including 76 hostages. Now, under a peace deal, Hamas was supposed to release 3 more of them on Saturday, like the 3 released last weekend, but no longer. Hamas announced Monday, alleging Israel delayed allowing Palestinians to return to northern Gaza and more aid under the deal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated calls to release the hostages by Saturday, or war will resume. It's a terrifying prospect for Palestinians as well as the families of the hostages. One of them is Nimrod Cohen, a 24-year-old soldier taken hostage when Hamas attacked his tank. His mother told us one of the hostages who came out last weekend confirmed he's alive. But with the ceasefire on a knife's edge and Israel readying its forces in and around Gaza, she told us, "I'm afraid. I'm scared for Nimrod." Now, President Trump has suggested the people of Gaza be resettled in neighboring countries like Jordan. Hours after King Abdullah sat with Trump, he rebuffed that idea on social media and reiterated that Jordan was against the displacement of Palestinians. Adriana?
All right, Chris Livesay, thank you so much. For the first time, Elon Musk has answered reporters' questions about President Trump's plans for sweeping cuts in the federal workforce. In a joint appearance with the president yesterday, Musk, who was accompanied by his young son, said DOGE, his group, is fighting government waste. But he admitted his team could make mistakes. Nancy Cordes is at the White House with the latest on this meeting. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Adriana. And as you can imagine, reporters had a lot of questions for Musk about the work that DOGE is doing, these sweeping job cuts and spending cuts that they have been imposing across government. And it really came as these lawsuits against DOGE have been piling up, and as the president was signing an executive order giving Musk even more power to slash the federal workforce.
The people voted for major government reform, and that's what the people are going to get.
As President Trump sat behind the Resolute desk, it was Elon Musk who did most of the talking, defending the deep and some fear indiscriminate cuts he has been making.
We will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes.
The billionaire was interrupted occasionally by his 4-year-old son, X.
Sorry for this. I thought my son might enjoy this, but he's sticking his fingers in my ears.
Musk insisted that he has no conflict of interest, even though his own companies, Starlink and SpaceX, have won billions in government contracts.
Our actions, we post our actions to the DOGE handle on X and to the DOGE website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
And yet, despite that promise of transparency, his operation, called DOGE, gave no rationale Tuesday for the 89 Department of Education research contracts it abruptly terminated, worth more than $900 million. Democrats protested this week outside Musk's newest target, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, after a top Trump official closed it for the week and sent employees a stop work order.
This is a fight between millions of hardworking people who just don't want to get cheated, and a handful of billionaires like Elon Musk who want the chance to cheat them.
The CFPB was created after the 2008 financial crisis to go after banks and lenders that deceive their customers. Richard Cordray was the agency's first director.
If you take the cops off the beat, there are going to be more criminals. That's a basic fact of law enforcement in this country, and it's no different in the financial marketplace.
Republican lawmakers have largely backed Musk's efforts at the CFPB and elsewhere.
It's time for somebody to go in and take a look and say, is this the way to run the agency?
Trump and Musk insist these deep cuts are necessary to eliminate waste and cut the deficit. But one day after USAID's Inspector General reported that the cuts had put nearly $500 million worth of food assistance at risk of spoiling, that IG was fired from his job in a 2-sentence email that did not provide an explanation, guys.
They're moving fast. They said they'd make mistakes. They said they'd correct them. But this journey they're on, Nancy, what has Musk said about the ultimate goal or destination?
He said, Tony, that he thinks DOGE can help cut the deficit in half, so from $2 trillion to $1 trillion. And he argues that if the government can do that, then economic growth would skyrocket, interest rates would come down. That's his theory of the case. He was asked why he sometimes says things that have not turned out to be true, like claiming that $50 million worth of condoms were going to Gaza when that was obviously not the case at all. He said, yeah, some of the things he says are just not going to be accurate, and that he should be corrected when that happens. He said he's not going to bat 1,000. It was an interesting admission.
All right, Nancy, thank you so much. There's also a new twist in a case that made national headlines last summer. A court has ruled that Karen Reed, the woman accused of killing her Boston police officer boyfriend, can be retried. This after a judge declared a mistrial when a jury was unable to reach a verdict. Prosecutors say Reed hit John O'Keefe with her car and left him to die in a snowstorm. Reed's attorney says she was framed to protect other police officers who she accuses of being involved in O'Keefe's death. The Massachusetts Supreme Court ruled that she can be retried on all 3 charges she faces, and she's due back in court in April.
Turning to health news, whooping cough spiking in the U.S. right now. At least 360 new cases of this contagious bacterial infection were reported nationwide last week. That's a 27% jump from just the week before. Last year, at least a dozen people died from whooping cough in the U.S. Health officials are recommending the most vulnerable children, those between 2 months and 6 years, get vaccinated, mine are, and then get another booster around 11 years old. The CDC also recommends pregnant women get a booster, too.
Yeah, I need to see if my kids have that vaccine.
I'm sure they are. It's totally standard in most places.
I got worried when I was reading about this morning. All right, ahead, the Trump administration orders a major shakeup of U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE. We will talk to the former acting director under President Biden. Do not go anywhere. You'll want to be here for that conversation.
There's been a major shakeup of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement as frustration grows inside the Trump administration that arrests and deportations are not happening fast enough. Well, two sources now tell CBS News late last evening, two top officials who previously had led ICE's deportation branch were reassigned. The news came on the very same day that President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, told reporters he was personally not satisfied with the number of arrests so far. Here's what he said.
The arrests in the interior enforcement is about 3 times higher than it was a year ago today. 3 times higher is good, but I'm not satisfied. There's more criminal aliens that need to be arrested, hundreds of thousands. Sanctuary cities are putting roadblocks up. We got leaks. So we need to increase the arrests of illegal aliens, especially those with criminal convictions.
By the way, during his inauguration, Trump promised to deport millions and millions of people, and ICE has been out there conducting raids all over the country. They've been promoting their campaign on television, on social media as well. But the White House at this point says that ICE has only made about 11,000 arrests in 18 days. That's not the pace they need to meet their goals. And over the last week, the agency has stopped issuing those daily arrest figures. So it raises the question, is executing these raids and meeting the goals harder than they expected? And also, what might they have to change to get to where they want to be? For more on this and how it's all working, we are joined by someone very special, P.J. Leckleitner, who served as acting director of ICE under former President Joe Biden. P.J., thank you very much for joining us. To make this real simple for people,
yeah, good morning, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Is this sort of like the team wasn't meeting the goals that the owners wanted, and so they fired the coach, and they're going to bring in some new people? Help us understand the firings in the deportation branch, or reassignments.
Okay, so all I know is what I've heard as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reassignments, because all I know is what I've heard. They're career people. They haven't been fired, but they have been reassigned, from what I understand. And I'm not going to second guess the decisions that are made by the administration, either the border czar or the director of ICE, and what they need for their team. I know from hearing there's some frustrations in getting the enforcement actions done, but it's a Herculean task, Tony. Like, ICE has been chronically underfunded for decades, and to get the work done that they need help from Congress to get more resources and personnel. You see a lot of great success so far with the interagency, getting DOD on board to help, getting the agencies from DOJ, even now IRS and Treasury. But they've been chronically underfunded. They don't have the money to be continuing this, and they're going to have to get help from Congress in the form of appropriations to continue this massive undertaking.
What are the resources you think are needed, and what are the limitations? Because at the rate that they're going at now, they have about 787 arrests per day. If you multiply that by 365, they're on track to maybe have about 300,000 or more arrests per year. They want to, of course, increase that. But what's needed? What are the physical limitations? Deportation beds, personnel.
Yeah, they need more deportation beds. Right now, they're only funded for 41,005. And they need vastly more of those beds. The DOD can help, obviously, with different centers and where we could put these individuals, and that's been done previously. But that's not going to be enough. We need additional money to get out there and get contract beds to do that. They're going to need that. And that's all bed money. Now they're going to need money for transportation. Again, DOD's helping with the transports, but that's not all free. There's an opportunity cost for DOD doing that as well. So they need more money for the deportation beds and for the transportation, and continuing help from the different agencies to help on these enforcement operations.
PJ, you had this senior acting role as head of ICE under the Biden administration. You've also been with the Department of Homeland Security for 2 decades, give or take. watching what's happening unfold now, I'm curious what you think is different, if anything, from what you've experienced in the Biden administration and even further back.
Yeah, definitely. It's a much more enforcement-minded, forceful, and muscular civil immigration posture. That's for sure. They definitely pivoted based off of the election and in what the priorities for this administration are, and that's the priorities that the administration wants to follow. And the career men and women of ICE and the other parts of the federal law enforcement spectrum are going to do everything they can to make this work. So really, it's that increased muscular posture as it relates to civil immigration to get these folks, and there's more than 8 million that we know of that are on the non-detained docket, to round these folks up, to get them in detention, and to get them through the immigration proceedings and either get removed or get relief. And that's going to be a big undertaking, require a lot of money and resources, like I said.
And how would you compare this enforcement right now under Trump's second term to his first term?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but just an increase. They've opened the aperture as it relates to the civil immigration. Still, the national security and the public safety focus is still there, and you heard that the border czar saying that. They're going to go after those public safety, national security threats first, those criminal aliens and people convicted of serious crimes, and they're going to prioritize that, and they're going to work down that list. And that's the way you do that in law enforcement. You're going to push that. So that's remained consistent, but what you see now is a real increase in what they call collateral arrests, just the other at-large individuals they run across. From what I understand, if they run across someone who's out of status here without, here illegally without status, in improperly, either visa overstay or they crossed illegally, then they're gonna grab them as well, regardless.
Hey, PJ, I'm curious why you think there's this big difference in what the Trump administration is doing versus the Biden administration. You said more forceful, more muscular. Why wasn't the Biden administration pursuing this docket of 8 million people that you mentioned?
Well, we were pursuing them, but we had prosecutorial, discretion and guidelines put in by the previous administration, where they really wanted to focus on the most recent border entrants and those national security, public safety threats, and really take a mitigating and aggravating look at all the other individuals who in the population, and let that proceed through non-detained docket, through the immigration proceedings. And we didn't have the money. We tried to get some more money at the time to increase our detention and to get some more detention space, which would have led to even more removals, but we didn't have that during the past administration, although we did try to get that. But the biggest difference was really didn't have to focus as much on the non-national security public safety threats.
And
go ahead.
PJ, President Trump has also expanded expedited removal authority, meaning that people can be deported without seeing a judge, without having proper representation. What do you think about that loss of due process?
Well, all of this is consistent in the INA. Nothing's inconsistent. So I like to say all the work that's going on with this new administration is consistent with the INA. And the INA has been in place for more than 2 decades. It's just a more forceful approach to this. So this administration ran on that, and they're gonna carry it out to the best of their ability. The new administration has a much more different approach than the previous Biden administration, for sure.
Yeah, it sure does. PJ Leitner, appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, Tony, and you got it right.
Hey, all right, I appreciate it. From a Dokoupil to a Leitner, 2 not so easy names. Appreciate you, sir. All right, ahead. We've all fallen down the internet rabbit hole before, but when do you cross a line into something more troubling than just a little search or two? We're going to show you the red flags to watch out for, maybe in your own psychology. We'll be right back. Welcome back to CBS Mornings Plus. Some of the stories now that caught our eye at this hour. More big changes at Google, this time to the calendar. The platform no longer marks cultural celebrations. What are those? Well, Black History Month, Women's History Month, and Holocaust Remembrance Month, all gone from the calendar. The tech company said it removed the holidays last year when it, quote, standardized its calendars to only include public holidays and official national observances. Google said that simply maintaining hundreds of moments globally was not scalable and was not sustainable. But people look at this and they say it comes amid these broader shifts at Google, including dropping diversity initiatives and renaming the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America per the administration.
Yep. All right. And also, time to check your kitchen cabinet. Several brands, of canned tuna sold at stores like Trader Joe's, Publix, and Costco have been voluntarily recalled. This is due to a risk of
botulism.
Thank you. A potentially deadly foodborne illness. The affected products have a defective lid and were packaged under Trader Joe's and H-E-B's brand names, along with the Genova and Van Camp brands. They have a best if used by date in 2027 and 2028, and the canned tuna was sold in at least 26 states and the District of Columbia. No illnesses have been reported. If you have the tuna, you can return it for a refund or just toss it.
Okay, no botulism yet reported. That's good.
All right, so where will your state rank on the love meter this Valentine's Day? A new survey from bookies.com, an online sports betting site, analyzed Google Trends data from 2020 to 2024 to rank the most and least romantic states. Ready for it? All right, turns out Cupid is still working his magic in the beautiful state of New Jersey, which came in third. Who knew? Then we've got Delaware in second place. Also, I would say a surprise pick, but love Delaware. And at number 1, romance is apparently red hot in West Virginia. And in case you're wondering, some of the least romantic states, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska. The results are based on the number of Google searches for Valentine's Day in the month leading up to the holiday.
There could be some false indicators here. I mean, if you're Googling Valentine's Day, it suggests a kind of uh-oh moment.
Yeah.
When is it? Oh, tomorrow? Yeah, you could be in trouble.
All right. Maybe just some procrastinators in those
a lot of
states.
them.
All right. So we have all been there. You're scrolling through social media. One tap leads to another, and then you have fallen into a deep, dark rabbit hole. Most people have no problem leaving their feed where they found it, but it can be a slippery slope into conspiracy theories, obsessions, and yes, even cult-like groups. So how can we spot when a friend or family member is in trouble? Jennifer Murcia is a communications professor at Texas A&M University, and she has the red flags to watch out for. Jennifer, good morning. So let's just start with focusing on language. Tell us about where the dividing line is between a cult versus just what people could call fandom.
A cult is an organization or a group that wants you to uncritically accept the truths of that group. So you're not allowed to have a divergent opinion. You're not allowed to think differently from the group. And in fact, your entire status as a member of that group is derived from believing the truths of that group.
Okay, so it's not like being a Mets fan, because when you're a Mets fan, you can argue over the offseason trades. Did they overpay for Soto, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes.
When you're inside this world, though, of going over the line, obsession, fanaticism, how can people on the outside see that you've gone too far, and how can they bring you back? Really, the bringing you back part is the tough part.
Absolutely. What cults do is they try to separate people from their friends and family. They try to love bomb them, to make them believe that they are the only ones that care about them. They try to make it seem as though everyone else in your life is out to get you. They don't want you to believe these truths. So they really try to separate you from your support systems. And so if you have a loved one who is starting to pull away from the family, from the friendship, and starting to really embrace this alternate lifestyle or these alternate realities, that should be a red flag to you. And what you want to do is not call them out so much as try to bring them back, try to bring them in, let them talk about their experience, let them talk about any concerns that they might have. And those are all different ways that you can sort of help them to realize for themselves that this group is dangerous for them.
And how is social media and the algorithms that people are fed, what role does that play?
The entire internet is designed to create these fandoms and these cult-like experiences. We are served a very unique and distinct version of reality through the algorithms. People who are really good at manipulating us know that if they use certain words that are unique or different, that we'll then search up those words. And when we do, we'll find the content that they have seeded onto the internet for us to find. It's called keyword squatting. And so they have all kinds of strategies that they use to reel us in. And they say things like, no one wants you to know this. No one will tell you this but me. And that makes you feel as if, important information is being hidden from you. And the whole way that search operates is that it makes you feel as though you're doing research, but you're not actually doing research. You're doing a search. And that search is designed to provide you with the information that Google or whatever wants you to find, that they think you want to find. So it's very tricky.
All right, Jennifer, thank you so much. We appreciate you. All right, moving on. Time now for our morning's memory. Imagine having a job where you get paid to eat all day. It sounds like a dream, right? Well, back in 1985, taste testers were the subject of a CBS News report, and the job wasn't quite as sweet as you might think.
They are professional testers, and they play a large role in determining the taste of America. In the course of a year, panels of taste testers here will check the flavor, texture, and aroma of more than 100 consumer items, ranging from coffee creamers to ice cream. A taster's job is to identify flavor characteristics.
Full flavor profiles?
Full flavor profiles.
Sour, 2. Cooked apricot, 1.5.
This panel is testing baby food, but not all the products they must eat are intended for human consumption.
Dog food isn't so bad. Cat food is the thing that we really do have a lot of trouble with.
Okay, so in today's morning memory, we show people taste testing cat and dog food. Missing from that memory is the rationale for that. Why was that so?
I don't know.
Somebody's
got to try it. I mean, you can't just have the dogs try it, right?
I think you can. I think you can. All right, well, thank you for your service, taste testers from the 80s. We appreciate it. Ahead, actor Lucy Boynton is in studio to talk about her new miniseries, A Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis story. Stick around. It's a riveting true crime story, almost lost to time, but now brought back to life in a new 4-part drama series. Ruth Ellis was a nightclub manager in 1950s Britain when she was convicted of shooting and killing an abusive boyfriend. As part of her sentence, she became the last woman to receive the death penalty in the UK. Actor Lucy Boynton stars as Ellis in A Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis story. And in the clip you're about to see, Ellis confronts her lawyer about efforts to try to save her from being executed.
Is it true that you have all been campaigning for me? I told you. No begging, no pleading.
You've seen what they've written about you.
I don't care what they write. I want my sentence to take its course. You will not go to the Home Office. I will not die with this world thinking I am some beaten little fool.
Well, that's it then.
That is justice. An eye for an eye, as I have said from the start.
An eye for an eye.
Lucy Boynton joins us now. Lucy, that's a very intense scene. You're amazing in this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ruth Ellis, instinctively rebellious is how you describe her. Is that what drew you to the character?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wasn't very familiar with her and her story at the time, but the book that this is based on, A Fine Day for a Hanging, was such a great context of 1950s London and kind of the parameters and constraints put on women at that time. So the more I understood that context, the more I realized what a rebellious character Ruth was just by being ambitious.
I understand you know something.
And in doing research about her and about how she changed the judicial system in the UK, what stood out to you when you were learning about this story?
I think it was just really interesting to see the contrast between how she was portrayed in the media and then who, through all the research, I realized she actually was. She didn't have her own voice or channel to the public at the time, so she was very much at the mercy of how the media decided to portray her, which was a very narrow portrayal, so entrenched in misogyny. So it was a real kind of wake-up call to realize how wide that chasm really was, and it's kind of been a good catalyst to challenge the way that people are kind of presented.
So you grew up in London. You still live there.
Yeah.
And prior to this book coming out, you had not heard of the Ruth Ellis story, right?
Yeah.
Is that surprising? And now that you do know about it, what does it mean to no longer make it an anonymous story lost to time?
Sadly, I don't think it is that surprising. I think we are losing out and missing out on so many women's stories that are kind of lost to the history books because they've previously not been seen as significant. But I think this case, as you said, changed our judicial system. It's vital to our history, to our country history, but also I think beyond that, I think it's such an important lesson to challenge how our judicial systems treat women. So hopefully it highlights that we are missing out on crucial stories and challenges us to explore more.
Ruth is such a complicated character, and she, kills a boyfriend of hers who was abusive. You said that of course, the domestic violence scenes that you had to play were so hard, so disturbing, and then you credit your intimacy coordinator for really being a saving grace. Tell us more about that.
Sophie Cooch, our intimacy coordinator, was kind of my savior on this project. She facilitated all of those scenes so that, it was safe on set, but also we got to have really in-depth conversations about the repercussions of doing that as an actor, because I think when it's fiction, you're still deeply affected by filming that, but you can kind of leave the difficulty on set, whereas something like this, the really challenging part was knowing that it is still, it was a true story, so that really rattles you.
Right, you're still thinking someone did experience this.
Yeah.
And so many people do.
And it's still so prevalent today. It is a national crisis. It is an epidemic in the UK, so it's devastating to still kind of sit in how much there is to do.
Well, you're really powerful in this role. You've been acting for a long time, since you were a kid. What's next?
I've got a film called See You When I See You, which is directed by Jay Duplass, which was such an incredible, singular experience. I'm very excited for that.
That's cool. All right, Lucy Boynton, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Lucy.
it. A Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis story, begins streaming Monday on a platform you should know about. It's called BritBox. Check it out.
Ahead, the moving story of a Minnesota couple showing the world what love means after an unimaginable hardship. That's next. Now to our weekly segment, highlighting a story from CBS Village. That is a CBS News site that is giving voice to diverse communities. Ahead of Valentine's Day, Reg Chapman from CBS News Minnesota shares a story about the strength and healing power of
love.
I do. Love and unwavering devotion. For Lynn Hervey and Jamal Collins, their love was tested and is surviving. They met in 2017 when friends set them up on a date.
He was really, really cool. We went out to eat. We went go-karting. We went to an arcade. We did so much that day. Like, that's how you kind of like wiggled your way in.
Jamal knew this match was forever. He wanted to marry her.
He asked me twice, but the way he did it, I was like, I just feel like you should do more. So I said no.
After 2 years, Lynn finally said yes.
Yep, we had a baby. Yep, we got a son named Jamal. We call him Junior. We lived together. He got he started a business.
And then the unthinkable happened. It was April 16, 2020. Jamal was with friends on Irving Avenue North in Minneapolis, and someone started shooting.
At 9:45, his friend called me and he said, Jamal is shot and he's dead.
Jamal was shot in the head and rushed into surgery. Lynn was told he was brain dead and to consider organ donation.
I know he ate right and stuff, so physically he's gonna be able to get there. And I know one side is gonna be weaker, but I know we're able to get that stronger. And I was like, I'm keeping him here.
Years of therapy and hard work by Jamal, Lynn and her mother, Renita, paid off.
He had a trach. Trach is gone. He had a feeding tube. Feeding tube is gone.
The couple documents his triumphs and challenges on social media. Love Saves You is followed by almost 1 million people on TikTok.
Okay. But my biggest goal is just helping him get his voice back. He want to walk, but I want to hear him talk.
2025 brings a new journey for Jamal and Lynn.
We found a facility for Jamal to go to. They have aphasia, ataxia, which the aphasia is what's happening with him talking, and the ataxia is him walking.
Both are ready for this new challenge because they know love has no limits.
Oh, Reg Chapman, thank you so much for that story. Tell us, what is the latest update with Jamal and Lynn?
Well, right now, Jamal and Lynn are in Chicago at that rehabilitation center. They are hoping to get some intensive treatment to help Jamal learn how to walk again and to talk better. And they say that this is their special Valentine's Day gift, is just being together no matter where they are.
Reg, we love CBS News Minnesota. I met your executive producer on a trip here not long ago. You do great work. You all do. I'm curious, you've got a TikTok account, or you don't, but Jamal and Lynn do, that you came across. Where can people find that? What's the handle? And why so many people are drawn to this couple, do you think?
Well, I think so many people are drawn to them because they are really showing what true love is all about, just their commitment to each other, their commitment to helping Jamal get back to where he was. When I talked to Lynn, she told me that Jamal took very good care of her before the incident where he was shot in the head, and that she felt that she owed him that much to be there for him as he tries to regain his independence.
Through good times and bad. I mean, that's what it's all about. So, Reg, what's their next goal? They've already accomplished so much.
Well, their next goal is, like Lynn said, she really wants to hear him speak. She really wants to hear Jamal tell his own story. He has things that he wants to say to people who have followed them along this journey for the past couple of years. And he wants to walk and she wants him to talk. So hopefully they can meet in the middle and get both things accomplished. They're just a wonderful couple, and I just wish the very best for them.
All right, Reg Chapman, CBS News Minnesota, thank you for this story. Thank you for your whole station. You guys do such great work. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Reg.
It's funny they mentioned TikTok, social media. I've made a change actually in my life recently to cut down on social media use. Do you notice anything different about my phone?
No, what?
Look at it. Look. What? Look at
it's gray. I thought it was
gray.
just meant to be black and white, a little gray flash.
I've changed the settings so that I don't have color images on the phone, and my eye is able to look away.
Yeah, it's not as appealing.
It's not as appealing.
Doesn't look like candy.
20% reduction in my looking at the phone-ness.
I might try it.
Little hack for you. Grayscale, it's called. We'll see you tomorrow on CBS Mornings Plus. I'll tell you how to get in there and do it.
Bye.